Just another payday. I'm Teekosey, and this is with just 15 defeats. I'm Teekosey, and thanks for joining me for another round of With Just 15 Defeats. In today's show, we're going to be discussing David Haye's next opponent for Haye Day 2, 21st of May. But before I do it, I just want to say thanks for joining me on this video. We're going to be discussing David Haye's opponent, and if you have any comments about what I say, if you agree, if you disagree, just leave a comment below. Also, there's going to be a poll in the top right hand corner on all YouTube formats. It's going to pop on the right hand corner with a little question. It's going to have a little eye icon. If you missed the question, just click on that and there'll be a choice of two answers, yes or no, whatever we should decide. If you just take 2 seconds just to click on that, you don't have to go to any other website. It's just going to be within the YouTube platform. So just click on the poll. That would be brilliant. So we're here to discuss David Haye's next opponent. And David Haye's next opponent is Arnold Gjergjaj. That, I believe, is how it's pronounced. That is how the guy that introduced the press conference pronounced it, Arnold Gjergjaj. I think everyone's kind of joked about how to pronounce it, but that's how it's pronounced. David Haye couldn't pronounce it, even though he full well knew how it was pronounced, and he joked and made light-hearted about the guy's name, which I thought was a bit classless. But anyway, we move forward to the fight, and I think first of all it's a poor choice of opponent, but we need to think about where David Haye sees himself. Does he think he's still relevant, or is he just trying to cash in? And if he's just cashing in, it doesn't really matter who the opponent is. We can see that he fought Mark Demori, who was a nobody, wasn't ranked really, hadn't fought anyone of any note. Everyone knew that this wasn't going to last very long at all, and Haye dispatched him without even breaking a sweat. We've got this guy, and most people think that David Haye will beat Gjergjaj as well, and it looks like he's going to then move on to an over-the-hill Shannon Briggs as well. So 3 fights that'll all be at the O2, all will make big money for him, all live on free-to-air TV in the UK. So he's keeping his profile up. He's going to be making good money, and this may be the case that he's just come back for a variety of fights, exhibition fights, you could call them, to make some good money, and not really. He may not think that he's ever going to be in the same position to fight Joshua, Fury, Wilder, any of these sort of guys. So it's difficult, but I think it's a poor choice of opponent. If he does think he's still relevant, I think he should have been fighting someone top 20, and someone who's relevant. And there's a lot of guys out there that if he's still got it, that he should be able to dispatch relatively easily. But let's talk about Gjergjaj. Now, Gjergjaj's got a record of 29-0, so not bad, with 21 KOs. But he hasn't fought anyone of any note. He's fought all of his fights out in Switzerland except one fight. I can't remember off the top of my head where the other fight was, but it was another European country. He is Kosovan nationality, I believe, and so he's fought all of his fights out in Switzerland and got a 29-0 record. Now, bizarrely, he's ranked 23rd on BoxRec for heavyweights in the world. Now, I don't know what the algorithm is for BoxRec, and we all know everyone loves BoxRec because of what it provides for us boxing fans, aficionados, statos, what we can look at, but he's ranked 23 in the world. Now, if I just look and see who that is, who he's above, he's only just below Andy Ruiz Jr., Mike Perez. But then he's above Carlos Takam, Artur Spilka, Gerald Washington, Tony Thompson, Chagier, Jennings, Briggs, Miller, Ustinov, Huey Fury, David Price, Dmitrenko, Chris Arreola. Now, even with that, if you were to know nothing about Gjergjaj, that seems like it's odd. Now, I don't know whether the algorithm may have pushed him out there when the Haye fight was announced. I don't know where he was ranked, just say 5-6 weeks ago. It may have been the case that the algorithm takes into consideration proposed fights as well, and because Haye's got such a high profile, it may have pushed up Gjergjaj's ranking. I don't know, but it seems quite inflated to be 23 on that specific website because he has no notable victories over anyone else within the top 40. Okay, so as I say, he's got a 29-0 record. He's got three fights that I think are semi-relevant to discuss what he brings to the table. Now, he's got a 7-round stoppage over Emilio Zarate. This is a guy that Huey Fury dispatched in 2. Okay, he's also went the distance with Zoltan Skala, who was KO'd by Gary Cornish and Dmitrenko and a number of other prospects that are on the way. Okay, so he went the distance with that guy. He also went the distance with a guy called Bakhtov. Now, Bakhtov has been around the block. He's got a mixed record himself, but he's fought a number of guys that are within the top 40. In fact, Anthony Joshua, he knocked him out early, but he has gone the distance with Ustinov, Glashkov, and a couple of other guys. Okay, so he's not completely useless. He's a decent, durable opponent. I think he's got probably over 10 defeats on his record. But Gjergjaj went the distance. Gjergjaj went the distance with Bakhtov, and in fact, Gjergjaj was dropped relatively early on, but he managed to survive. He recovered well, and as the fight went on, he dominated the fight. He was confident throughout, and this continued to increase, and his hands were low, and he was looking to take out his opponent, but he was unable to do so. So we can see from those three notable fights that he went. He knocked out Zarate, but it was late on, and other guys have managed to dispatch these guys a lot easier. So Arnold Gjergjaj, what is he like, and what does he bring to the table? Now, I always like to make comparisons. Something I like to do. Some people say it's easy to do that and whatever, but I think sometimes it's good to tell people that don't know about somebody, to explain it. It's always good to make a comparison. Now, I'm going to make a comparison. People are going to laugh. I know I'm almost laughing myself as I'm about to make this comparison, but I'm not saying he is anywhere near as good as this guy that I'm about to say, or these two guys that I'm about to say, but I think he shares traits that are fairly similar, right? And what I'm going to say is, I think that Arnold Gjergjaj shares some similarities with the Fury boys. That's right. I think he shares similarities in the style. Now, we know that the Furies, they have a slightly different style, particularly Tyson Fury, slightly unusual style. Now, Gjergjaj, from what I can see from the highlights that I've seen and the full matches that I've watched, he has got a fairly fluid style. He fights with his hands low, both of them, and he's fairly light on his feet, and he bounces around the ring, and he likes to move. He does not have much variety. He doesn't have much variety. He's the type of shots he likes to push out the jab, and then he follows it up with one of two shots, one of which is a massive telegraphed right, and the other's a kind of cuffing downwards right cross. So there isn't much variation in his game, but he's quite fluid and quite light on his feet, and as I say, his hands are low. I'm not convinced he has much power, as I just discussed those three knuckle fights, and others have dispatched those opponents with ease, which he was unable to do so. So I don't think he holds much power. But I did hear something, I can't remember where I read this or heard this, was that it had been recorded or whatever, that he has more power than Vladimir Klitschko. Now, that's a brave comment to make. I think it was coming from Gjergjaj's team some time ago. It wasn't recently. It wasn't when the David Haye build-up. It was within the build-up maybe a year or so ago. So it wasn't to promote this fight. So they were. I think they were obviously trying to get other fights. But whether that's the case or not, I don't know. From what I've seen, if you look at his highlight reel, he has sparked out a number of guys. But I don't think I'm not sure whether he's going to hold the power up against top guys. But there you go. I think in terms of the matchup with David Haye, we know what David Haye's got. David Haye's a fantastically muscular guy, fantastic movement. He's a patient fighter, but then he can rush a guy. He can rush a guy like few others, with power, swinging haymakers, and basically finish a fight very, very rapidly. Now, I think the way that the fight's going to go, I said in my mini prediction video I made a month or so ago when the fight was announced, that this would not go very long at all. And I think that prediction stands the test of time, even with having researched into Gjergjaj. From what I see, he has his hands low. He doesn't seem to be that skilled in the sense that he can keep his opponent at bay. So I think that David Haye will be able to close the distance with ease. I think he's going to be able to close the distance with ease, and it's all going to be whether he can sustain the shots. And we know that many people can't sustain the David Haye shots because he brings so much power to the table. So unfortunately, I think David Haye's going to win this by knockout, by stoppage, within 3 rounds. But what I will say is, from what I've seen of Gjergjaj, I think he looks decent. I would have said that he's taken the money, but one of the interviews that I saw with David Haye was that he admitted that they're not paying this guy very much, but they're giving him the opportunity to kind of make a name for himself, and he's obviously bet on himself to do that. But I think from what I've seen, I think he's got some nice skills, and he's got a nice style that I think could trouble a lot of guys out there. So had he been matched better, or if they decided to match him in the next year with some half decent opponents, I could have seen him working his way definitely up the rankings. But he's in there with David Haye, and David Haye's going to stop him, so he's going to have some rebuilding to do. But I suppose being in the ring with David Haye is going to give him, it's going to get his name out there, so it's possible. And one thing I thought of, I know I made this comparison with the Furies. I think more possibly he's more of a Hughie Fury. You've got some similarities with Hughie Fury, but I think possibly if people were looking for some sparring that could somehow replicate the Furies, I think Arnold Gjergjaj could be a decent option. I wouldn't be surprised if others think the same. Okay, so let's just move on to the odds, as we always like to do here on With Just 15 Defeats. The odds, they're ridiculous. David Haye is got 1-80. 1-80. So you got to put down 80 to get 1. That's you can say that. And Gjergjaj, his odds are 16-1. 16-1. So there's a swing of 96 there. It's quite ridiculous. David Haye to win in a round is 5-1. To win in rounds 2 and 3 is 4-1. So they agree with me, because then it starts to increase 6-1, 9-1, 10-1 as we flip through the rounds. Method of victory. David Haye to win by KO is 1-10. Gjergjaj to win by KO is 20-1. So relatively to be expected. I think primarily this is because nobody really knows what Gjergjaj is made of. We can look at the videos we can see on the internet, and we can see what sort of style he is, see what he's done against other opponents, and compare the opponents to other people, which is what I've tried to do in this video. But until he makes a step up to decent opposition, sometimes we know that sometimes it takes a real opponent to bring it out in certain individuals. So it might be the case that Arnold Gjergjaj meets over Haye in the rings, looks at him dead in the eye, and then he knows that he can beat him and then knocks him out. We don't know. It seems unlikely, but these crazier things have happened. We know this, that crazier things have happened over the years. So, as I say, I'm predicting a David Haye early stoppage. That's what I think of Gjergjaj. I think he's probably decent. I don't think he's, in this stage of his career, going to be good enough. But as I say, it's been announced just today or yesterday. It's going to be screened live in the UK on free to air again, like the previous Heyday. And on the undercard, we've got Shannon Briggs versus Alexander Dimitrenko. I will do a brief video on that, probably middle of next week, as it's an interesting fight, and it holds some presence for the future, as it's possible that Haye could decide to fight him. But then again, he might not. He might be just using that as a way to promote this show. And then even if Shannon Briggs wins, it might be that they've just agreed that all this promotion, the press conference, let's go champ, all this is going to be a way to promote basically David Haye and make him a few quid. So we'll have to see there. So thanks for watching the video. If you've got any comments, leave them below, and remember to take part in the poll above. I really appreciate that, and I'm looking to hear from you. So remember to subscribe to the channel if you're new to this video, and we'll see you in the next round. Thanks very much, guys.